I do not stand with death penalty. I do not agree with it. I think it's something that that has more disadvantages than advantages. For example, death penalty is irreversible. When you kill somebody, even if the truth comes to light after some time, you can't do anything to bring them back to life. Now, the fact that it's such a permanent type of punishment, worries me. Also, we have to look at our legal system, our criminal justice system. Are we mature enough to kill people for crimes that they probably did not commit? If you look at it, the death penalty is targeted toward people who are lower in society, the poor people, the people who do not have a say in government and things like that. I, for one, think that if a young boy in Mushin is arrested and we all know how the criminal justice system works, and things are not done properly, and he is sentenced to death, how do you bring that boy back to life after 20 years when he has been exonerated? I think that death penalty is not the solution to a lot of things. I understand that people do not want taxpayers' monies to be spent, taking care and feeding people who have committed heinous crimes. But I understand. I also know that Nigerians are overly emotional in their postulations. We sit down there and we make laws out of our emotions. Oh, that person kidnapped somebody. We should kill him. Excuse me, you have been stealing money for the past 8 years. Have we killed you yet? I am worried with the way we look at things in Nigeria. I don't think that our criminal justice system is ready for such, I think we should be trying to work out of, things like the death penalty, not making new laws to further enshrine the death penalty. I don't agree with that.
So, okay. Daniel, the matter of...
Let's
go on break, but Tildana, you need to look at the procedural part of it, of prosecution, before we get to the point of death penalty. But that won't come back from this break.
Yeah.
Okay, welcome back. And
yes,
Mr. Daniel.
So Daniel, we're going to talk about, when she mentioned the death penalty, how do you correct a situation where someone has been sentenced to death and is already executed, and then 20 years later find out that he was actually
innocent.
He's innocent. So is it a question of the procedure and how we handle our prosecution?
Yes, like in Nigeria, peculiar Nigeria governance issue, we have problems here and there, and the prosecution of cases is also a very serious issue. The former Attorney General of Lagos State, Prof, I do pro bono cases. I was surprised to receive a letter from his office commending me. I didn't know how he got to know. He now called together all lawyers doing pro bono cases, and he started this issue of we want to outsource prosecution of cases because they know they have that challenges. So the problem is with prosecution, but that does not affect the existing law. The law is that for death penalty, homicidal offenses is there.
But that question of someone who's been sentenced to death, 20 years later, and you found out that he's actually innocent. I mean, when we were offered, she talked about how they met someone in the prison that was exonerated 20 years after he was sentenced to death. So supposing the person has already been executed, what happened?
Oh, well, that is law for you.
Like what happened? I think that happened in China or
in China,
Malaysia,
yes. I heard about it.
Even in America.
So, but the fact is that you have been prosecuted in accordance with the law. If there is any issue, you can go on appeal. The Supreme Court, sometimes with respect, they make mistake. What we do is that we go back to the Supreme Court and say, look, in so-so aspect of so-so decision you took, there was this mistake. Can you reverse yourself? It's allowed. So if before reversing themselves, the governor has signed, that is why most of the time there is delay in signing this death penalty. It is not just signed straight. Somebody might be condemned to death, and it might take some time because sometimes appeal are made, the governor or the president or the chief judge can grant amnesty to you. So, but I think if we remove death penalty, you are likely to encourage self-defense. You are likely to encourage a resort to self-help. You kill my person because you know you will not be killed. I've witnessed a situation where somebody went with a cutlass and wanted to kill somebody. They are not related to me, but we took up the matter. At the end of the day, the two families came together to settle. So what I'm trying to say is that death penalty is not for all offenses. It is for only homicidal offenses, and most likely where somebody innocent has been killed unlawfully. That is when it is invoked.
Okay, let me go back to Omolara. You said that death penalty is more applicable to poor people who do not have a say in government. But if you look around the world, you still find that some countries, in 2014, according to Amnesty International, 22 countries still executed people. We have the United States, we have Iran, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, even China.
For drug charges.
So if you say, you know, death penalty isn't working or shouldn't be the way to go, what would you prescribe?
All right. See, I love it when we sit down and, you know, have great conversations about what should be and ideal alternatives to issues. But I have been known to be more of a realist. Now, let's look at the society. A person who has a proper means of livelihood would, well, I don't want to generalize, would likely not transport drugs, yes? A person who probably has, I'm not being general.
I like the choice of word, likely.
Yes, you know, I'm not being general. These things are always subjective. Somebody might have money and still want to do things like that. But I'm saying that most times when I look at society, everywhere in the world, look at Saudi Arabia, look at Iran and all those places, personally, I think that the death penalty has been weaponized to quiet people. I think that people have been, you know, made to shut up, because number one, for the fear of the death penalty or for actual execution. You know, when you watch somebody, but you always now find out that the people in power generally don't get killed like that. Usually, for example, I was making an example earlier. We all know that the criminal justice system can be faulty. It's not a foolproof, you know, system. We have people who are probably arrested and don't have adequate legal representation. We have some people who probably got some pro bono lawyer who is not really interested in the system. And, you know, several things can happen. Anything can happen. And then such a person gets sentenced and they probably did not commit said offense. My issue with the death penalty is that it is a final resort for things that hang in the balance of probabilities. It is too final. It is to kill this person for doing this. What if they didn't do it? We all know that the criminal justice system is not foolproof. Mistakes happen. So that's my actual angle with the death penalty. Okay, so it is too final for something that hangs in, you know, the balance of probabilities.
No, but sorry, sir. That's why we have court action. You see, when the killing is said to be unlawful, you can only, if the soldiers are at the war, they can kill. That one is lawful. Unlawfully killing somebody.
For instance, in this case of kidnap.
Exactly.
And then some of them still collect ransom and still go ahead and kill.
You see, the only way we can, I have said that without prejudice to existing societal problem, like prosecution of cases and all that, it's a different ballgame. We need to correct that.
Yes.
But the death penalty thing is separate. Take, for example, when Buhari was the head of state under the military rule with the late Idiagbon, they came up with death sentence for trading in hard drugs. And it worked. When Babangida came in and, reviewed that law and removed the death penalty. If that death penalty had been there as at that time, most of those that went into trafficking cocaine, they would have stopped it by now. Look at the countries where we have death penalty for drugs. When you are arrested and you are tried, they even give you time. That's why I say in cases where you have death penalty all over the world, you are given time even after being convicted and sentenced. You know, they don't just go and kill. There must be some authority that will sign off, so you have time. So what I'm saying is that if we remove death penalty, we will